Hey folks, my name is Cory. I'm here with my friend Becki. We are celebrating a very important day. Becki, what did we celebrate today? Not just 420, but maybe we'll talk about that.
Today I celebrated 10 years of being in recovery from alcohol.
Which I think is incredible. I got to attend my first AA meeting this evening with Becki and support, and the daily reflection of today's AA meeting was talking about humility. And Becki is so humble. I would be very, very proud of myself if I accomplished 10 years of sobriety, and the word that she kept using was grateful. And I think that just speaks volumes to who she is as a person. So, what are you most grateful for today, Becki?
Um, I'd say I'm most grateful for all the support. I know these curtains would blow in our
It's
face too,
okay.
but all the support from friends and family and including Paul, um, who he really was the catalyst for me to make a change. And so those I'd be the most thankful for that and how it continues, and they continue to love me no matter how I screw up, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, I know who Paul is, but
Right.
anyone who's watching online might not. So,
Paul
describe Paul, tell your story.
Paul was my husband. He was a different sort. He had a big personality. He was from Mississippi, um, and he unfortunately had diabetes and kidney failure. And for the last I think 7 years of our marriage, he was on dialysis 3 times a week. And we knew we had a limited amount of time together. And um, my when I finally, I guess if you want to call it a rock bottom,
Whatever
um,
terminology you want to
yeah,
call it, it's your story.
uh, he was the person that challenged me and and was willing to stand up to me, regardless of what would happen, and loved me enough to tell me that I had to make a change or he was going to leave.
What was your response to I need to make a change and or you need to make a change rather? What was your response to your husband, the person who I know you loved, I think more than you've loved anyone else ever,
Yeah.
calling in behavior that he knew was harming you?
My inward immediate response
All of it.
um, was to, well, outwardly I said, yes, I'll do whatever it takes, but inside I was already thinking, how can I hide my problem better? How can I still continue to drink? Because I didn't think I could stop, um, no matter what. And, but I knew that I had to keep Paul
Yeah,
around.
for sure.
And, so at that point in the hospital, I was thinking I'm just gonna have to be more clever, I guess, or something. Like, not that anything leading up to it was clever, but that's kind of the immediate thought I had.
Was there a point, and if there was, when was the point that that internal cognition of trying to be clever, trying to hide it, when did that go away? Or when did it shift into an internal want and need
Want
for
and
yourself to do this?
I think there were a couple of things, but one was time. Um, and I was going to AA meetings. I was seeing a therapist, and I think one of the most pivotal times was with the therapist when she had asked if she could get the paramedic report,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. And she got it, and she said she wanted to sit and read it to me. And when she read it to me, it, it's like it's one thing to know what happened, but to hear it spoken out loud to you, and know the seriousness of it, and also know uh, the position I put Paul in, and um, the position I put everybody I love in, honestly, and how I had never considered them in the equation of what I was doing. I had only considered me, and then my therapist looked at me and she said, "How does it make you feel to know the lengths you went to lie to yourself?"
Well,
And that's kind of when it started to sink in a little bit. Like, yeah, I'm. It's not just me that I'm hurting, and gradually it started to take a turn then, and I also physically started feeling better, and sleeping better because I had multiple health issues um, going on as a result, and I would say, I mean, probably 60 to 90 days is when it started being more for me,
okay.
or around that time, and I think that for me kind of evolves too. It's like it was for me, but it was like, okay, I'm kind of this much in. And the I continue to have to commit myself to it, I guess. Um, because every day, there's different situations that you're thrown
Mm-hmm.
into, and it's kind of it's an evolution on how to handle those situations and just being aware of them. I think
Um,
that makes
yeah,
sense.
I think it makes sense. Um, you referred earlier to the position that you put your loved ones in. And
Mhm.
in your own words, what position do you feel like that was? Like, how do you think your choices impacted them? And feel free to share only ever as much as you're
Yeah,
comfortable sharing.
I think really what it was I put them in a position of not knowing, um, and being blindsided, and a position of where how can they trust me?
Wow,
Um,
okay. Yeah.
you know, um, I mean, I've been lying to them, and lying about some pretty serious stuff, and to their face. And And I know what it feels like to be lied to, and
Yeah.
it doesn't feel good, you know. And when it's somebody you really love, it's it's not something you recover from
Yeah.
easily.
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's what I meant by the position I put them in. And one of the things, uh, like my friends and Paul would say to me, they were like, I did, how did I not know? You know, they could like blame themselves
Mm-hmm.
for not knowing and not recognizing, and, you know, thinking they were stupid because they didn't see it. And I'm like, no, that's
How does
no,
that make you feel?
horrible, horrible, you know, because it, it my behavior, it is no way their responsibility or um, burden, you know, but it does affect them.
Mm-hmm.
But I, the fact that it makes them feel bad, you know, just makes me feel horrible. But
What has helped the most in repairing your relationship with yourself and with the people who you did hurt and you did lie to when you were still actively using?
um, I mean, luckily, I've been able to make amends with people. Um, a lot of people don't get that, and some of it is taking a long time to do, and it's difficult to do. But one of the things that I found is when I was drinking, I was always avoiding something because I was
Mm-hmm.
afraid of it, and you know, and it just compounds and compounds, and now I still want to avoid it, you know, and but I get through those things and push through it and do hard things, and I feel bad, and I realized that alcohol was keeping me from being able to be that person that
Mm-hmm.
got through hard things. Did I go
How?
on a tangent?
No.
Okay.
I mean, maybe,
I
but
felt like I went on a little bit of a
I
tangent
think it's
there.
okay if you do. This
Okay.
is your story, and however you want to tell it, I think is super valid. I think for anybody watching who's struggling with their own addiction, um, however you want to share your story, and to whomever you want to share your story, and whenever you share your story is what matters more than anything.
I'm gonna just
Your
smoke.
comfort matters a lot, I think, especially when you're being as vulnerable as you are. And I super appreciate your vulnerability and your strength. When you were faced with getting through these hard things that you had typically escaped from,
Hmm.
how did you do that without your typical escape?
You know, it's 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 hard to say. Um, I think what helped me, I guess, channel a lot of my anxiety was getting back into art and knitting and reading and doing things that I had always enjoyed but
Mm-hmm.
wasn't doing because I was drinking.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of, a lot of that nervous energy was being expelled that way. And um, I would gradually want to try to do those hard things and make amends to people. And luckily, I had people that challenged me to do it, you
Okay.
know, that weren't afraid, you know, people that love me and um, aren't afraid to kick me in the ass when I need it. And
Those are true friends.
Yeah, I really do appreciate those type of people in my life. Um, because I need it often. I'm one of those people,
There's
that
nothing wrong with
I'll
being one
try
of
to
those
get away
people.
with stuff. But yeah, I need those people to challenge me like that.
Was there anyone in particular, other than Paul, who saw your internal strength and saw who you could be without alcohol, who did challenge you um, in really effective ways?
Yeah, I think well, I mean, a few people, my best friends do, and they continually do. They they're really more like sisters to me, and they're not afraid to say, what are you doing? Recently they did, and I lied to to her about something, and she called me on it, and she was like, if you lie, if you're lying to me, I think you're drinking, um, and she challenged me to talk to the other person too that I had lied
Mm-hmm.
to, and I think it's good for me, even though it's not stuff that I want to admit. It it keeps me grounded, and also I'm happy to know that she's not afraid to challenge me, because she doesn't like doing it.
Yeah,
She even says she doesn't like being, doing the tough love, but she's gonna do it if she has to.
because she
So
loves you.
yeah.
What was your response being, you said this was recent, so being
Mm-hmm.
almost 10 years sober
Mm-hmm.
and hearing someone still say, if you're lying, I think you're drinking. What was that response? What was that experience
Um,
for you?
well, it's not fun to hear, um, but at the same time, it's stuff like that that keeps me grounded. It's also, um, I don't know. It's one of those things that I think it's always going to be there for me, because for so long I was that person, and I don't expect other people to just take my word for it. I I I know that it was, a big deal, and it's hard for people to trust me. So that's something I kind of have to carry with me.
How do you carry that?
I just try to always remind myself, to live up to what they see in me. Because often, you know, I don't see myself as, you know, this person. So it's one of the things Paul used to say to me. He used to say that he wished that I could see what he sees. So I always try to think of that because I know that they see the best in me even when I don't. And so I try to think of that and live up to what they see.
I think that's really beautiful. I know sometimes the notion of living up to other people's expectations and other people's ideals of who you are as a person, that can sometimes be considered like toxic in today's
Yeah,
culture.
yeah,
And I see the value in that in a lot of cases, but I think in this case it feels like accountability
yeah.
almost. Do you think you would be able to get through this without other folks holding you accountable?
No.
No.
No. No.
That was
With,
immediate.
without a doubt. No. No. Not at all. Not at all. Um, no. I mean, it's, I mean, if I had no one, no, I would immediately started drinking. I mean, there would be no, yeah, there would be no reason not to. Yeah, if I didn't have that accountability.
That's
I
fair.
mean, I,
Yeah. I think that's really honest. I think
yeah,
it's really tempting as somebody who like doesn't necessarily identify as an addict. I've definitely, at least, I guess I am addicted to nicotine, but it's never.
yeah, I am too.
Um, my addictions have not ever felt like they have debilitated my life.
Right.
And so I think it's easy for someone in my shoes to think, oh yeah, like just self will and self determination, and if if I will it to be, it'll be. And so I think it's interesting coming from your perspective, that no, it's not just your will.
No, not at all. I mean, I I tried 2 years before I actually got sober. Tried 2 years before, went 3 months without drinking, and then thought, oh, let's see, if I can have just a glass or two of wine a night. It was like okay for a few months, and then I found the skinny margarita, and it was ridiculous. It was full blown. I was like just drinking straight tequila for the next almost 2 years, and and I knew like there, no, I
Is
can't
that
do this by myself.
is that the point that led up to what you referred to earlier as your rock bottom?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Are you comfortable discussing what rock bottom looked like for you?
Yeah. Um, it was. I mean, every night I drank tequila, straight tequila. I put a little bit of lime juice in it, but and I existed on saltines, and because it settled my stomach. Um, I also had this condition called restless leg, so I couldn't sleep because of my leg, and I would drink and basically drink to black out so I could get some sleep. But it ended up in this cycle where I would only sleep for like 3 hours because you don't
Mm-hmm.
get restless sleep. And I also had, whatever you call it, sleep apnea too. And, all this is going on at the same time. And I have anxiety. And my husband had a prescription for Xanax. And I just wanted to sleep. So that night, I don't know what time it was, honestly. Um, I would have to look back, but I had a ton of tequila and just took a handful of Xanax and was like, okay, this should make me go to sleep. And and then I remember waking up 2 days later.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Um, and it was really weird. Like it's kind of this half like did that happen? It was like I woke up, kind of the nurse giving me a
Mm-hmm.
sponge bath in front of a mirror.
Oh
And
wow.
then the next thing I remember was could have been like maybe a day later, I don't know. In an actual hospital room. And but I I was severely anemic. They had to give me 4 units of blood. Um and there was a slew of other things. Basically, every blood work thing you had was out of whack. Um, but my hemoglobin was so low, they said I was about 24 hours away from a heart attack.
Oh wow.
And but they had Paul found me. Excuse me, hiccuping. He found me passed out in the hallway,
Wow.
and took me there. But yeah, I was for 2 days. I was in a coma, and then I was there for a full week. Um, and they had me on fluids and stuff. Did something to help me detox.
Wow. What was the what happened immediately after the hospital?
Um, Paul picked me up in the car and drove me to an AA meeting, and I did not want to go. Um, but he was gonna sit there and make me go. And if you knew Paul, you know that you would do what he said. Um, and so I went up there, and I came in and they asked me if I wanted to read something, and I said sure. And I thought it was going to be a pamphlet or something, some kind of literature. But it ended up I had to actually read at the meeting, which absolutely terrified me. Um, but I decided that I couldn't say no, and honestly, my normal reactions to things had never served me well. So maybe I should go against my natural inclination. And so I did it. I got through it. And at the end of the meeting, they asked if anybody wants a white chip, if they want to actually make a commitment to try to not drink. Um, and that's the first time I ever took one. I had been to AA meetings before, but I'd never actually taken a white chip. And so for those, it was kind of like a touchstone, like some people, like I have little crystals too that mean something to me, but it was like a touchstone, like that first 30 days, I would like hold it, and I did stuff like I had to learn like how to just have like sweet tea out of my wine glasses, and enjoy it. Then, practice stuff like that. And I read a lot of memoirs of people that had been through addiction.
Is there one memoir in particular that like really resonated with you that you would recommend for people in similar positions that you were in then?
I mean, I loved the one Guts by God, she's that actress Kirsten Johnson for Third Rock from the Sun.
I don't know.
It's called Guts,
Okay.
but it's real small, um, and kind of like because she's a comedian, so it's kind of like humor, but it's serious
Yeah.
stuff. I mean, I really enjoyed it. Um, that's one of my favorite ones, and then anything by Mary Carr. Um, I like her stuff a lot, but
Are there any particular messages from these memoirs that you're talking about that help solidify them as some of your favorites, and any messages that you'd like to pass along from those memoirs to anyone listening, watching, who may be struggling with their own addiction or own struggles, whatever it is?
I think um, the thing that resonates most with me is that it can be anybody, and it, it's not this, don't stigmatize the fact that it's something that is happening with you. You know, it can happen to anybody. Um, and people grow from it. You know, it's not always a tragic story, and there is hope, and you you know, you just have to ask for it and ask for help. I think that's one of the biggest things is ask for help, because people do want to help, and a lot of times people don't ask for help.
I think asking for help is scary. It goes
Yeah,
back to that vulnerability piece we were talking
yeah,
about earlier. It is scary to
it's
be
very scary.
vulnerable. And asking for help, especially when it comes to addiction, typically means recognizing some sort of problem.
Right.
And that's, I think, hard for a lot of people. It's really easy to live in denial and
Hmm.
escape, like you were.
Yeah.
Um, it's harder, like you said earlier, to confront these things head on.
Hmm.
Um, so
Yeah.
um,
Very hard.
I think that's honestly, I like that message as kind of a goodbye message of like, don't
Hmm.
be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah.
I, again, haven't experienced addiction in the way that I know a lot of people have, and I consider myself very fortunate for that. Um, but I'm always here to listen, and I know Becki is also always here to listen. I think there's beauty in sharing story. I think
Hmm.
you can find community in sharing your story, and sometimes that community looks a little bit more diverse and unexpected than you might originally think. I mean, we're 56 and 26 for
Yeah.
the next 24 hours at least.
Yeah.
Um, and we have a very, very strong, healthy friendship. I think
Yeah.
one of the people at the meeting tonight asked if Becki was my mom, and I said no. But she might as well be. Sometimes she feels like a mom, sometimes she feels like a sister, depending on like
Or the cool
what,
aunt.
yeah, or the cool aunt, depending on the mood, depending on what I need, because I definitely need help sometimes, and I would not trade this friendship, as unexpected as it is, for anything. And I think we are just a testament to the beauty and the power that can come from sharing community or sharing story and building community. Because I think we definitely bonded over sharing story and
Yeah.
being vulnerable with each other. Um,
Yeah. Ditto.
so
You always say it so well. It's like I can't think of any way to say it better than ditto.
this is why we were class reps. We did go to the same graduate program, and that's initially how we met. Um, but we were class reps. So here's Becki, who earlier was afraid to speak at an AA meeting, now
Yeah.
a class representative. So
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to be said in that as well,
Yeah.
especially as relates to the strength that it takes to be sober. So if you or anyone you know is struggling, um, please reach out to, I'm going to volunteer you to either
Yeah.
of us.
Absolutely.
Um, we can be listening ears. We can connect you with resources. Um, we want to be there for our community just as a general whole. So thank you so much for listening, for watching. Thank you so much for being vulnerable with us,
Thank
and
you for
for
allowing me to tell my story.
thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks.